We kind of got sidetracked a fair bit. So, yeah, this is the video.
Yeah, I haven't done much besides lay in bed on pain medication, and
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I haven't done much besides lay in bed on pain medication, and anytime this stuff happens with my business, it just...
So he's a drug addict, he can't do anything productive, and he's just high all day on pain meds. Dude, his life is just going down the fucking toilet, making every bad decision.
This makes it way worse, and I get very stressed out. So if you guys can share the video and leave some reviews and just try to help me out as much as you can. I mean, what else can I do? You know, I'm trying to focus on things other than the botched eye surgery, and then my business this year. You know, I have $60,000 stolen from me with the defective potato chip machinery. I try to do other stuff, and I get scammed over and over again. And then I try to buy this WAGYU and offer a new product, and they let it rot in a cargo container. So at this point, I think I'd rather just give everything up and hand out flyers the rest of my life, because that would be way less stressful, and I'd have a lot more fun knowing that these people that have basically ruined my life and have caused so much pain and suffering and unhappiness to me, knowing that they're losing millions of dollars would make me way happier than what I'm doing now. So we're getting very close to that. And for the people laughing at me, saying, oh, he's gonna hand out flyers, he's gonna hand out flyers. Well, after I did it one day, the doctor filed a restraining order and was pissing in his fucking pants. So, you know, they don't want the public finding out the truth, and they don't want it impacting their body.
He filed a restraining order before he started handing out flyers.
Bottom line. So, I mean, there's some documents here that, you know, I can share at the beginning just to give some context to the situation. You know, we paid the initial $13,000 for the WAGYU beef. That was June 1st, 2025. So that's when it was paid for. However, the first contact to purchase the WAGYU beef was back in February. So I reached out to this Japanese WAGYU company back in February. We tried, you know what, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna read the lawsuit first, but this is just the first email to the WAGYU company. We have the email to Always Forwarding, which was the company that messed everything up. They were contacted back in April. Point is, guys, this has been in the works for a while. You know, I hired a professional importing company. Everything should have been correct, but now we had to file this lawsuit. Frank Tufano versus Always Forwarding, Weber Solomon, who's the CEO, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, EVA Airways, and Worldwide Flight Services. So U.S. Customs played a factor because they're the governing body that did not let the product into the U.S. EVA Airways is the transportation company that I paid the $7,000 to ship it over here, and Worldwide Flight Services is the company that EVA Airways hires to handle their cargo. So EVA Airways subcontracts their cargo to Worldwide Flight Services. So Frank Tufano ordered a shipment of world-famous Japanese Kobe Wagyu beef, an expensive and highly perishable product, to be airshipped from Japan into the USA, which costs a total of approximately $13,000 for the product and $7,000 for shipment. Frank Tufano hired SPQR Imports, who contracted Always Forwarding to handle the customs clearance process. Always Forwarding was hired by SPQR Imports on April 14th, 2025. With information about this shipment many months in advance of the occurrence of this event.
Gum.
Always Forwarding entered an agreement through email on this date in April. After 2 weeks of the product supposedly being in the USA, Frank Tufano became extremely concerned and quickly understood that the situation was not being handled and the circumstances became dire immediately. So I didn't text or email this guy. I actually physically called him several times from the end of June through early July. Like, I basically called this guy at this importing company every 2 to 3 days to check up and make sure he's handling it. But in reality, all he did, I think, was sent an email to this forwarding company, which was just jerking him around. So that didn't help. So at this point, this was probably around July 15th or 16th, where I started freaking out because I realized that this guy was not handling the situation and my meat was probably ruined at this point. Frank Tufano had to contact officials at the USDA and US Customs and Border Protection to find out that an entry for the shipment had never been filed and that the package was being stored in refrigerated conditions as opposed to the required frozen conditions. Despite billing SPQR Imports on July 11, 2025 for approximately $6,700 for airport storage fees, entry fees, and numerous other fees, an entry for the initial shipment that arrived to port on June 30th was never filed. So I'm assuming that this company, well, let me read this first because I might have said it. Regardless of the circumstances of the product, the package could have been released for safe handling at Frank Tufano's refrigerated warehouse, where it could be held until further inspection, but still remains, as of July 25th, at JFK Airport in improper storage conditions. This is extreme negligence by all defendant parties in this action, as they each have a personal duty for the condition of the product and should care about making sure it reaches the customer in adequate condition. Frank Tufano believes their greed for collecting airport storage fees is the main driving factor in ignoring his shipment to the point where it has perished. When Frank Tufano took over the situation on July 18, 2025, after Always Forwarding had failed to do their duties as part of their contract, being in possession of the goods for the previous 3 weeks, the situation already seemed unrecoverable due to the negligence of all parties involved. Frank Tufano contacted Always Forwarding, attempting to get them to file an immediate entry to prevent his goods from perishing, who refused to help him and denied responsibility for the shipment, claiming that they will only communicate directly with SPQR Imports. Frank Tufano then contacted EVA Airways, who uses worldwide flight services to handle their cargo storage. After identifying the location of the product, they requested approximately $9,000 in storage fees as of July 18, 2025. Because of the negligence of Always Forwarding and their inability to file the proper paperwork in a timely manner, Frank Tufano is faced with an unreasonable situation. Pay $9,000 more for expired meat or lose $20,000. So basically either lose $20,000 or probably lose $29,000. And even if I did pay, the problem was even if I did pay that $10,000 storage fee exactly at that point in time, who knows when I would have gotten the meat? It could have been 2 weeks. Who knows? Could have been 2 more weeks in storage. Neither defendant in this matter.
I don't know if there's any dudes that want anything to do with Frank. Like, I know he's gay, but he's a pretty intolerable person. I don't know if he's like involuntarily celibate or something, but I don't know. He might get AIDS. I don't know if he's fucking any dudes.
Retard took any opportunity to attempt to help Frank Tufano, far below the standard of care, and in the context...
I mean, from dirty needles, not gay sex. Well, I don't know if he'd be sharing any needles with anybody. As far as I understand, he's just getting like opiate pain meds from a doctor. What a lot of people do is that once they can't find any doctors to prescribe them pain meds is, yeah, they end up getting like heroin or something. But I don't know, that's kind of the old days. Now you can just order fentanyl online. So if he was gonna do anything, I'd imagine he'd just order fentanyl online. Retard donated $2.
Next to Frank Tufano's small business, a malicious and significant enough action to disrupt his entire business operations. And guys, $20,000 for me is like 5% of my product cost for the whole year. So that's basically me not paying an employee, not paying myself. It's very significant.
Wait, 5% of product cost per year. I don't know if that's possible. So if $20,000 is 5% of his product cost, then 20 times 5 is 100. So he's saying his product cost per year is roughly $400,000. He took in $5.4 million in revenue in in the last it was, so he would be left with 5 million if he's only spending like 400 grand for product cost. And then he just has his employee, like, you know, he has to pay his employees. I don't know what he's paying them, but I'd be surprised if that was like over $1 million for all of his employees. Like if he has 10 employees all making 100 grand a year, I don't know, that sounds far-fetched. So let's say like another $500,000. And then, like, you know, I'm sure he has some other costs like utility bills and, you know, maintenance fees and shit. Let's just say that's another like $500,000. So I don't know. He's saying he's broke, but we know he had 5.4 million in total revenue, gross revenue. So I don't know where the fuck this money is going if he's saying he's broke. Weird. Really weird.
Apparently not for these guys. They're used to ripping people off all the time. And you know, if they're doing multi-million-dollar cargo containers, then they probably don't blink an eye when trying to rip off some small business for $10,000. Frank Tufano believes that Always Forwarding wanted to generate additional revenue by billing him for various fees, including the very high airport storage fees. Therefore, intentionally ignored the perishable and delicate nature of his product in favor of their own intention to fraudulently steal additional monies from Frank Tufano. Not only has Frank Tufano lost a considerable amount of monies relative to his business operations, the possibility of any future business with this product supplier has been decimated due to the extremely poor nature of how this situation has been handled and lack of care from all defendants. So then I demanded a jury trial. Then I stated the jurisdiction for where my business operates in Pennsylvania. So the first claim for relief was refusal to deal. All parties have refused to do business with or assist Frank Tufano in retrieving his product within reasonable circumstances, leaving him no alternative option as these parties have a monopoly on the operations of incoming goods into the USA. Because these business...
Why is he making a video about the lawsuit he's filing? I'm sure it's going to mention the Illuminati too.
What do you...
I'm not a retard. So... Oh, her...
Businesses refused to do service with Frank Tufano, and there are no other possible market options. Frank Tufano is going to lose his shipment of product and all associated shipment fees. Second claim for relief, Federal Trade Commission Act bans unfair methods of competition and unfair or deceptive acts or practices. So, you know, Frank Tufano had already paid over $7,000 for transportation and customs clearance, and then upon the product arriving in the USA, Always Forwarding, in collusion with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, charged an additional amount equating to $6,700 to seize and store the product. Always Forwarding attempted to deceive Frank Tufano to extract more monies, whether in collusion with other parties or not. By not filing the entry paperwork before the product entered the USA and having no priority for the perishable shipment, has acted both negligently and deceptively for billing Frank for actions that would be considered errors. So they should have filed the paperwork. Like, there's no way that that shipment should have accumulated any storage fees. So the fact that they sent me a bill on July 11th means they have no clue what they're doing, and they don't care. It's a crooked company that rips people off all the time and probably doesn't ship a lot of perishable stuff. Third claim for relief, monopoly power. These operating businesses have monopoly on all goods coming in and out of the United States. Being such a large and powerful regulating body, they are unlikely to provide legitimate and fair treatment to damages caused to product due to errors made by negligence, intentional or unintentional. Given the extreme and unusual circumstances mainly caused due to negligence and fraud committed by Always Forwarding, no other parties would assist Frank Tufano in obtaining his goods and should face outside regulations to be forced to have reasonable options as a place of business. So if someone's getting screwed over by a customs company or a forwarding company, and then all the other parties say, oh no, you have to pay the storage fees, they're basically committing fraud. They're extorting you. That's like the definition of extortion. There's nothing legal about this. Fourth claim for relief, Federal Tort Claims Act allows individuals to sue the U.S. government for damages caused by the negligent or wrongful acts of its employees acting within the scope of their employment. U.S. Customs and Border Protection employees acted negligently under government supervision within the scope of their employment duties. As required per specification, a complaint was filed with the relevant federal agency. However, this urgent, I haven't even heard back. I filed a complaint with I think it was on the U.S. Customs and Border, but I laugh when people have any issues and say, oh yeah, just file a complaint with them. Yeah, like you're gonna file a complaint after a cop shoots your family member, like the cops, like it's like all that drama with the police and all the stuff in the news, and people saying that like the police are going to police themselves, like they get put on paid leave, no one cares. A lot that stuff. The reason I brought that up is that stuff is basically being said to protect these government agencies, because they want you to think that you're getting somewhere and you're filing something legitimately, but in reality, when you file a complaint with any of these agencies, they just wipe their ass with it. And if you do actually get a lawyer and try to sue them, that lawyer is going to be wiping his ass with your $100.
Then why does he do this if he thinks it's all like Illuminati conspiracy?
Bills, because he's just going to screw you over and defend these companies. Fifth claim for relief, False Claims Act. FCA prohibits knowingly submitting or causing to be submitted false claims to the government for payment. Always Forwarding in collusion with government agency, U.S. Customs and Border.
What you doing, Gum?
Border Protection knowingly submitted false invoices for payment, including services not rendered, unnecessary storage fees, and inflated prices. So Always Forwarding, being in this business, understands that the storage fees were completely unnecessary, as the proper entry paperwork should have been. These secret society, Freemason, Illuminati douchebags are probably just going to laugh at this case and dismiss it like they always do. But technically, the government could investigate this, because this company is fraudulently billing U.S. Customs, U.S. Customs. The problem is there's government entities in here that are charging storage fees. So I don't really know. The thing is, it gets really fishy when the government's involved and you're paying them and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Sixth claim for relief, unfair trade practices and consumer protection law prohibits unfair methods of competition and unfair or deceptive acts or practices in trade or commerce. This law, along with its regulations, is designed to protect consumers from fraudulent and deceptive business practices. And this is kind of me repeating. Always Forwarding attempted to deceive Frank Tufano by not following the proper protocol for importing international goods. Their sole responsibility to ensure the entry was filed had never been complete, despite being in contract with SPQR Import.
What's your opinion on the Pedro Pascal creep allegations?
Technically they were in contract for over 4 months, but for some reason I put here for over 3 weeks.
always forwarding likely intentionally accrued airport storage fees to bill Frank Tufano for more monies, intentionally committing a deceptive act, always forwarding then held Frank Tufano's highly perishable product hostage, requiring more monies for the goods to be delivered. Seventh, claim for relief, fraudulent misrepresentation, occurs when one party intentionally deceives another through a false statement of fact, causing harm to the deceived party. To succeed in a fraudulent misrepresentation claim, the injured party must prove 4 key elements: a false statement of material fact, knowledge of its falsity or reckless disregard for the truth, intent to induce reliance, and justifiable reliance resulting in harm. Always forwarding, after entering a contractual agreement with SPQR Imports, was assigned the duties to handle the customs entry of Frank Tufano's shipment. Always forwarding billed SPQR Imports, claiming to have filed the entry for the shipment. Assuming the entry had been filed, both SPQR Imports and Frank Tufano had trusted that Always Forwarding was handling the incoming shipment and that things were proceeding as they should. The entry, however, was never filed, and because Frank Tufano relied on this false claim, the product had perished in storage for an unreasonable period of almost 3 weeks and was no longer usable. Then 8th, claim for relief, pre-complaint discovery. We're just requesting all emails. And then prayer for relief, judgment on each of the claims set forth above all defendants in this action. Frank Tufano to be compensated for the $21,000 that was spent on products. And then the big part, $810,000 because he's no longer able to do business with this supplier or sell this product for remaining years of business, and an amount of $1.6 million to be compensated as an estimated loss of sales, assuming current business growth continues. So it's probably more than that, to be honest. But yeah, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's asking for $1.6 million with a $20,000 loss, presumably.
And I've read lawsuits that have been filed by lawyers. Is this all blurry? How long has this been out of focus for? So I filed there's 7 completely legitimate claims for relief there. And what these Freemason judges like doing is dismissing my case, saying I did not state a claim. But that's BS because I looked at maybe 4 or 5 other lawsuits that were filed against Dr. Tufano, and none of them were written better than mine. If anything, I included more facts and more legitimate claims. I put, when you name the law and legal statute and then explain what happened, if my initial filings are better than what I've seen actual law firms write, and they're just denying it because I'm not in the club. There's no legitimacy to what these judges are saying when they dismiss my cases. They're just lying and defending these secret society degenerates. They write up bullshit legal jargon thinking I don't understand it and then try to dismiss it. Last week with when I wrote a
I'm back. What did I miss? Just some Frank Tufano horseshit. He's suing this company, Always Forwarding. So according to him, they're responsible for destroying $20,000 worth of meat that he ordered. Oh, the usual. His lawsuit probably isn't going to go anywhere because he's an idiot, doesn't know how to properly file anything and all that.
When I wrote a motion to recuse to remove the California judge from the state superior court case, and one of the main arguments I made was that he has to provide a pro se litigant with a fair trial, and he.
The math isn't mathing with Frank. He works in Pennsylvania, right? Their minimum wage is only $7.25 an hour. Maybe his schizophrenic delusions are so bad he doesn't even know how much money he has. Well, I know for sure he lies about how much money he loses or spends or has. But it's weird. Again, his case with Paul Saladino, you can look at the public court filings. He's not paying his lawyer. And the last message that his lawyer sent to Paul was that Frank is completely destitute and broke. Again, this guy on camera said he only has to spend about $400,000 to buy product to sell to people, but he takes in $5.4 million in revenue. So, okay, we can deduct that from the gross. So we're at $5 million. So the only thing really left is paying employees and, you know, whatever other overhead costs. So, you know, like electricity bills, you know, bills for the refrigeration stuff that he has, you know, crap like that. Even if you're deducting $2 million, like we still got a lot of fucking money left. That's $3 million to work with that he's making in profit, supposedly. Like if we're getting the math right. So it's just strange. I don't know what the fuck is going on. He said he had to take out a $30,000 loan to even pay for the first surgery. I don't know why you'd have to take out a loan when he's making that much money. All of it is just so weird. None of it adds up, and he's clearly lying about something. Thanks for the donation, though. Forgot my namification. Gummy, what are you doing?
Even explaining or saying why my filings were incorrect. That was my main argument to why he should be removed from the case, because he didn't say anything. And then he just ignored that. The judge literally just ignored the main statement made. So these people act like they're the only ones that can read a piece of paper, and they just make up BS and do whatever they want. And a big thing these gang stalkers are saying now is they're calling me like Frank Tufano, or making jokes about how many lawsuits are filing. But that's the reality of all of these businesses and all these people taking advantage of and harassing me. You know, if you're being gang stalked by a group of people that are intentionally attacking and harming your business, the legitimate thing to do in return would be to file lawsuits. And because there's so many, I mean, every single one of these lawsuits is legitimate. Some of them are a little like kind of stupid, but they're all 100% legitimate. This is all I do every day for most of the hours I'm awake. I have all these papers here, and then they're all surrounding my desk, all behind this chair. And there's literally like 30 folders here, each with different cases. This is the Rat Boy stuff. They're still harassing me for that nonsense.
Oh my god. Dude, what a fucking retard. Why doesn't he get a cabinet?
Since this is me suing Shopify for all the chargebacks. This is Social Security Administration for denying me disability. This is the people that sold me my...
Oh my god. He's trying to claim disability? Buddy, you can drive, and you made $5.4 million in revenue last year. How the fuck are you disabled?
My car, there's so much shit wrong with my car. The tire.
So he's trying to fraudulently claim he's disabled so that if he sues Taban or something, he can very easily make the claim that Taban made him disabled because of the eye thing.
We're dry rotted. The chassis is failing. This is the...
Wait, what did he say about a car?
The people that sold me my car, there's so much shit wrong with my car. The tires were dry rotted. The chassis is failing. This is...
Oh my god. Didn't he like try to buy, like he was gonna finance that Lexus, then he returned it and like forced them to take it back, and apparently now he got another car that was a piece of shit that he's trying to not pay for? What the fuck is going on with this guy?
Dr. Taban getting my TikTok taken down. This is Shopify getting transferred to federal court. This is the guy that sold me all the broken restaurant equipment. There's like 3 different Taban cases. And the bigger joke is I haven't gotten anything for any of these lawsuits. Not one of them has gone through the court system and been handled fairly at all. And then when I file for like IFP for informal pauperous and say like I can't afford to pay the court fees, these judges say, one judge didn't grant it to me. I was thinking, hey, maybe if you guys actually put one of my cases through and I've been compensated for what's happened to me, I can afford to pay the court fees. So I'm tired of this nonsense. If you guys can share the video and support me.
Well, he's not doing too well, apparently.